Hello, I'm Dave Reagan, founder and senior evangelist for Lamb Lion Ministries, and I want to talk with you for just a moment about the Abraham Accords, the so-called peace settlements between Israel and two states called the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. First of all, I want to point out these are not peace agreements. Israel has never been at war with either one of these states. These are what should be technically called normalization agreements. What it amounts to is if these states would recognize the legitimate existence of Israel, Israel would then have complete relations with them, trade relations, tourist relations, and also open Israel up to all of its technology for these two states. So the significance of these agreements, I think, has been greatly overblown. They do not guarantee peace in the Middle East. We're talking here about only two Arab states, and they're very, very tiny states. For example, the United Arab Emirates has a population of 9.2 million, but only 1.4 million Arabs. All the rest of the people there are from other countries who have been brought in to work for the rich Arabs in that country. So it only has 1.4 million. The nation of Bahrain consists of a tiny little island whose population is 1.2 million, of which 600,000 are people brought in to work. So between the two, you only have 2 million Arabs out of the 450 million Arabs in the Middle East. And furthermore, these two tiny nations do not have a common border with Israel, and they have no threat to Israel, and they never have been. These normalization agreements mean very little about Middle East peace. The sworn enemies of Israel are not involved in these agreements, and they will not be involved in future agreements. The sworn enemies are Lebanon, Gaza, Syria, and the non-Arab states of Turkey and Iran, and behind them, of course, is lurking Russia, which giving support to all of them. Why the agreements, which could well be followed by other states like Qatar and Saudi Arabia? One is total exasperation with the Palestinians. The Palestinians have had opportunity after opportunity to establish a Palestinian state, and every time they have rejected the offer, it's just been a never-ending no, 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 no. And of course, the reason for that is they want the annihilation of Israel. They don't want a two-state solution. Second is fear of Iran. Iran is trying to dominate the Middle East, and these nations are scared to death of Iran, and so they want the backing of the United States, and they want the backing of Israel. Another is access to Israeli technology. That's another reason for these agreements. And another reason that they have succeeded is that Trump did something that no other president has done. Every other president, including Ronald Reagan, has always approached the Middle East by trying to put pressure on Israel to make concessions, which Israel has often done to no avail. They have never really tried to force the Palestinians to make concessions because they know the Palestinians are not going to make any concessions. So it's always been pressure on Israel. What Trump did differently is he completely ignored the Palestinians, went around them, and talked directly to the Arab states. And so what is happening is these Arab states now are coming on, normalizing the relations, and completely isolating the Palestinians. This, incidentally, will probably do nothing more than just enrage the Palestinians and enrage their allies and cause an even more unsettled situation in the Middle East instead of peace in the Middle East. We need to pray that Trump will never make the mistake of trying to endorse a two-state solution, because that is not in accordance with God's will. God has not spent 100 years bringing the Jewish people back to the land of Israel for them to suddenly give away a portion of their land. That land belongs to them. It was given to them for eternity by Almighty God. Joel 3:2 says that God will enter into judgment with any nation in the end times that tries to divide up his land, and that includes the United States of America.